Welcome back to It Was Never a Face Cards, your one-stop shop for daily Pokemon card market updates. And in today's video, we are talking about Sword and Shield alternate arts. And we also will touch on some Scarlet and Violet stuff as well towards the back half of the video. But we need to jump straight into this and talk about the Rayquaza VMAX from Evolving Skies. This is the card that we're looking at right here, shown on screen, the alternate art. And we are seeing continued all-time highs, specifically in a PSA 10. Absolutely crazy sales numbers that we're seeing, and price charting is showing the price at $1,262 currently for the month of July. However, these are some of the more recent sales right here that you can see on eBay, with as high as around $1,476, but more consistently $1,350 range, up to around $1,400. So looks like this card is continuing to go up in value. Now, we've mentioned it many times on the channel. Obviously, a card like this could have carried its own set, but it's in Evolving Skies, and it is seeing a significant increase in PSA 10 pricing. You know, back here, as far as PSA 10s go, at the beginning of the year, you know, it cracked $1,000, and it kind of declined a little bit, hovered around that price, went under 1,000, then at 1,000, and then now, just a little more than about 7 months later, we're seeing another rise. Are we going to see another alternate art boom? It kind of looks like that is the direction that we are headed, because if you look at one of the other cards, like the Giratina V from Lost Origin right here. Now, this one has come down a little bit more recently. We'll pull the card up so you guys can take a look at the card real quick. Number 186. Back here in January, it did peak around $1,600, and then it declined all the way to April, around $1,300. And once again, we're talking about PSA 10 pricing. You will see the ungraded raw prices underneath not fluctuating as much. Just keep a note on that as well. See how they're kind of just stagnating or dropping a little, whereas then the PSA 10 prices are actually going up in value pretty significantly. So this is getting back to kind of what we had seen before with the Giratina. Here's the more recent sales right here in the $1,600 range, with one as high as $1,700. We're going to round up that extra dollar, $1,699. And these are all eBay sales right here. So getting back into that upper 15, lower $1,600 sale mark overall. If this continues to trend this way, it looks like July would look a little bit different for the Giratina V as well, and it would surpass this old number right here, and we'd see another all-time high. And then we got to talk about Dragonite V from Evolving Skies. Now, while we did see the controversial Mega Evolution just get revealed for Pokemon Z to A, and people were not liking that Dragonite V with the wings on the head, but people are liking the regular Dragonite alternate art, because we are seeing, looks like this is going to be all-time high territories, matching like release date pricing. So currently for PSA 10s, they have price charting has it at $680 for the month of July for a PSA 10. However, the most recent prices are ticking up, going up from high 600s to low 700s. Now we're seeing $765 as the most recent sale for the Sleepy Dragonite from Evolving Skies. So, and you can see raw pricing, like I mentioned earlier, it did come up a little bit, $220 to $240, but kind of in that lower to mid $200 range. But PSA 10s just continuing to shoot up. And then we have to talk about the Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike. Pull up the photo here real quick so you guys can take a good look at it. There's the card there, and once again, raw prices kind of around, they've come down since January, similar to the Giratina. You'll see that this card and the Giratina have kind of been in sync, if you will. But Raw prices down. They've just been kind of declining with a little bump up now in July, and big movement when it comes to PSA 10 pricing, shooting back up to around 1,500. You can see more of the recent sales kind of around the $1,600 range for the Gengar VMAX. So starting to shoot back up in value, 1,200 back up to 1,500. So this will be another one to keep an eye on to see if it can continue to surpass this old high, which obviously some of these sales are doing in the $1,500 range. So a lot of these alternate art cards from Sword and Shield continuing to hit all-time highs. And then we have perhaps, which was one of the most underrated alternate arts for a long time, considering just the value of the card, how affordable it was for a very long time, is the Lugia V from Silver Tempest. And you can see that this card did shoot up in January with some of the other alternate art cards in a PSA 10 pricing, into that $600-700 range. And then it declined all the way down into April around 580. And now we're seeing it shoot back up kind of to around $800. You can see, look at how consistent some of these sales have been more recently. I mean, down here you have 800, 860, 800, 815, as high as 976, 800, 800, 800, 775. So a few, it dipped a little bit, 787 and 800 more recently. So the Lugia V going to $800 in a PSA 10, like I said, while near mint copies have come up just a little, 260 to 280 range. They haven't really fluctuated really in the raw copies. So that is just also just something interesting worth noting. People are starting just to value the PSA 10s. These cards, the cleaner copies are starting to have been graded, right? So the amount of 10 worthy copies of a lot of these difficult to pull alternate arts are just, they've already been graded. So we're seeing, while the populations are going up, people are wanting these cards for their collections for obvious reasons. I mean, especially the Lugia V, stunning card. And it's crazy to think, specifically with this one, like I mentioned earlier, you go back to, January 2024, look at $120 ungraded and $260 in a PSA 10, to look at it now being $800 in a PSA 10. So yeah, definitely this was a very affordable card for a long time. The boxes weren't expensive either, but Silver Tempest, Lugia, nice to see that it's continuing to see some all-time highs. Once again, excluding maybe some crazy release time prices. Sometimes the first, few cards like back here, they can seem a little inflated comparatively. So if you exclude those after the set released and calmed down, then you're seeing all-time highs. So, but we'll see where it continues to climb. Maybe this card can, I'm not saying it will or anything, but like that, but it'd be interesting to see if this card gets closer to around $1,000 in a PSA 10. I feel like that would be a very interesting price point, and then we'll see what that does to the booster boxes. So something to keep an eye on. If you own any of these alternate art cards and you want to have a cool way to display them, consider checking out some of our 3D printed stands. They can hold all of your different grading companies, whether it's PSA or not, with graded guards or similar bumpers as well. This is a new stand that I 3D print. So if you want to check this out, and the color changing display rotator that is available at itwasneverafazecards.com. Link will be in the description if you want to check that out. And then obviously we got to talk about this card. If we're going to talk about alternate arts, we have to talk about the Umbreon VMAX. And this card has declined recently, just kind of like most of the other alternate arts. You can see it did peak. We're not at an all-time high. We are a little ways off of it, but seeing a return to close to that pricing, January 2025, around $3,000 in a PSA 10, and right now we're looking at kind of around 2,700 in a PSA 10. It dipped all the way till April, just like some of the other alternate art cards, to around 2,200, and now we're seeing that climb back. But you will see right here, one of the more recent sales, $3,000. We've seen a 2,900, another $3,000 sale. So it looks like the Umbreon VMAX, the Moonbreon, is continuing to climb back up in value, and we'll see if it can eclipse January 2025. We'll see, maybe by the end of this month. There's still some time here, maybe August, who knows. We'll see where it ends up being. But even let's see, raw copies, 1,300 down to around 1,200. So while the ungraded copies have dropped, PSA 10s, they dipped, but now they're starting to turn back up. Once again, it's a very trend that's happening with a lot of these cards in general. And then there's a lot of evolving skies on this list, and rightfully so. And we got to talk about just the standard Umbreon V alternate art right here that you're seeing pulled up on screen. This is number 189. This one, similar trend, right? Peaked in January around $550 in a PSA 10, cooled down to looks like upper 400s, 480-ish range, and then now we're seeing an uptick. Currently, price charting has it at 580, as you can see on the screen. But more recent sales, I mean, this was the most recent one. This is actually a few days ago, $650. So we'll see, there's another 600 down here. It was kind of in the upper to mid $500 to low $600 range. So we'll see if this continues to move up in price and eclipse this old price here. I mean, still, we're pretty much at all-time highs. Once again, if you exclude October 2021, which was right when we were seeing the first graded copies, PSA 10 copies hit the market. So we'll see where this one ends up as well. Maybe August looks like a crazy time. Now, it's not every alternate art and popular chase card from every set from Sword and Shield either. We'll take a look at some other ones that are not moving just as reference points, and then we'll talk about some Scarlet and Violet stuff just right here at the end. We have right here the Giratina V-Star, the GG number 69 from Crown Zenith. And right here you can see this one's on a decline, maybe a little bit of an uptick. Now this one peaked similarly January 2025. It shot up pretty big though. Like back here you see October 185 in a 10, it went all the way up to 540. So a very massive jump, and then it cooled off. A lot of people graded or sold during this period, and that brought the price down, and now we're seeing it in the like lower to mid 300 range, but a little bit of an uptick. Last sold 360 to kind of mid 300s. So this one, similarly, you're seeing the raw card continue to decline as well. So, this not as popular, obviously, as like the other Giratina or the other chase cards, but a very stunning card from Crown Zenith. And Crown Zenith moving up big right now as far as ETBs and sealed product as well. Moving up pretty big recently. Then you have the Blaziken VMAX. This is from Chilling Reign. A lot of people love this card. This is one it's not in my top tier of alternate arts from the Sword and Shield era, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know if it's just the art style or what, but it's one that just, it's like, for me, it's just, it doesn't really call to me as much as some of the other ones. But we are seeing this one didn't really dip quite as crazy as you can see. It did peak in January with the other cards around $640 in a PSA 10, and then it declined a little bit, but not as crazy, just around 600, and now it's kind of come up just a little bit. So this one's kind of held a little stronger and hasn't declined as far as PSA 10 pricing goes. Now, kind of at that all-time high-ish. Once again, if you exclude the kind of the first few PSA 10 sales back here, which would have been, looks like September and October of 2021. So this one's held a little bit more steady, with little bit less of a decline value wise, but hasn't shot up quite as big recently. And then here's one of the bigger tragedies in my opinion. This is the Charizard V number 154 from Brilliant Stars. I still say this is the greatest Charizard artwork of all time. I just absolutely love it. Fighting the Venusaur with the mountains in the background and the flame, the little embers coming off his tail. I think it's stunning. But this card, not very expensive comparatively. You can see similarly, though it did peak a little bit in January, or actually February rather. 470, it's come down to around 430 in a 10, and it's still around 470 right here. And more recent sales, we did see a few hit 500. But yeah, this was one that was very affordable, kind of like the Lugia for a long time. You could see like back here, $100 raw, 220 in a 10. And I did always say that this should have been, when I was kind of talking about this card a lot back when it was cheaper, I kind of thought it should have been at least 500 in a 10. And that's kind of what we're seeing now. I kind of thought that that's kind of where it should have been. But, it took a while for that to happen. And at least it's there now. But I mean, just a little bit of bias maybe towards this card, just because something about the artwork calls to me. But you think it'd be a little bit closer to some of these other lower valued cards. Like, I'd like to see it like trail behind the Lugia just a little bit closer. But anyways, that's just my opinion. I know that I can be in the minority when it comes to this card. I do have a weakness for it. But this card, hasn't really shot up big like the other ones. But once again, it didn't really decline as far as a 10 goes. Really that much this year. It's just kind of been pretty steady. And then let's talk about some Scarlet and Violet stuff just to end it off, because this is definitely worth talking about. Everyone's favorite Bubble Mew from Paldean Fates shooting up massively in PSA 10. I mean, look, we're continuing to push all-time highs on the Bubble Mew. $1,300. Like, look at this last sale: $1,350, $1,275, $1,285, $1,350, $1,350. A lot more 1,300 sales, a few more 1,350s, and the ungraded copies. Let's see, where's January of 25. This is where it had peaked before, right? We saw it hit $1,000 in a PSA 10 and around 300 in a raw, and then it peaked in February. Raws peaked around 400, and the PSA 10 pricing had come down to around 900. Well, everything came down after that to, it looks like May was the low, where we saw 760 in a PSA 10 and 300 ungraded. Well, the ungradeds, I'll have to refresh this page because I zoomed in just a little bit. The ungradeds, you can see, didn't really move up that much, 310 to 335, but PSA 10s essentially went from 760 up to 1300. So people still want this card in a PSA 10. It's getting massive attention on the PSA 10 side. But yeah, people go crazy for this Bubble Mew card, and it's continuing to move up right now. And similarly, the Greninja is moving up a little bit as well. This was the top dog of the Scarlet and Violet era. After Twilight Masquerade came out, it was the most expensive card. People were going crazy for this Greninja. We are seeing an uptick as far as pricing goes since, let's see, January back here. Kind of peaked just below 800, and then it declined down all the way to around 630 in a 10, with obviously raw copies continuing to decline more recently, down to around 260 for a raw copy, but PSA 10 pricing shooting back up into the $700 mark for the Greninja. You can see very consistent $700 sales for all of these PSA 10 last sold listings. And then the final card that we're going to mention is the Magikarp. Now this one's on a bit of a decline because it shot up pretty massively. We did see like a sale as high as like $3,000 on eBay for a PSA 10, and you can see obviously here's the majority. In June was around 2,200, and it's come down off of that to around 1,800. Still very, very expensive. Forgot to pull up the card so you guys can take a look. Special, not special illustration rare, just a regular illustration rare from Paldea Evolved. Such a cool looking card. Love the Gyarados in the background. But this one has been on a bit of a decline when it comes to 10 pricing because it shot up so quickly, but raw prices have continued to shoot up. We'll just zoom in here on the raws, up to around 230 currently. Back here, January, So we're kind of where it was at before, and then it dipped to around April, 180. Now it's back up to kind of where we've seen with that pricing before. And like I said, 10 pricing on its way down. So a lot of cards moving up, seemingly kind of together, right? We're seeing a lot of that Sword and Shield era stuff, which kind of we haven't talked about in a while. It's been so much Scarlet and Violet, and then now Scarlet and Violet's ending. Now we're talking about Mega. So it'll be interesting to see kind of like as Sword and Shield continues to age, you know, like when is it gonna like kind of just like will it fall to the wayside to a certain extent with stuff just being so expensive, and it will kind of stagnate? I mean, there are certain exceptions to that. We're seeing with like Sun and Moon era and X and Y, but now those things are starting to move real big as well. It just really depends. There's a lot of stuff happening overall, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because I will keep you up to date as I do post daily Pokemon card content. So if you want to see what's moving on the market and all of that, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. But that's all I have for you guys in this one. It was fun to talk about some Sword and Shield stuff. I did actually enjoy pulling up some of those prices, and sometimes it does blow my mind on some of it, like just looking back on where things were at and how cheap things were compared to where we're at now, and then just to see things still like climbing, and you know that like that these things are going to happen, but just to like see them happen sometimes at an accelerated rate, just with where the market's at, it still can just be a mind blower, even though you know it's going to happen. So we're seeing these PSA 10s move pretty big in real time. So yeah, that's what today's video was about. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, it was never a phase.